Okay, so this video is entitled Ironing with Clothes On and Other Dumb Things That I've Done in My Life. So last week I had this beautiful yellow button-down shirt with these awesome cuffs, and I put the shirt on. I was feeling real good about myself. I was feeling myself a little bit, right? Well, I was looking at the cuff and I'm like, man, it is just, there's just one little part that just needs to be just perfect. So I was like, well, I could take the whole shirt off and iron it. That would make sense, right? But I was like, no, I'm running a little short on time. The iron's already hot. Let's just run it over just real quick with the shirt on, mind you. So the first time, it's real good. It goes over smooth. It's flat. It looks good. But there's just one little section, just this one little section that needs to be really ironed out. I'm like, man, I did good the first time. I can definitely just get this one little piece. Yeah, so that one little piece caused me to burn my arm. Very sexy. Yeah, burns are very in this season of the fall. But the reason why I share this story is because I am a recovering perfectionist. And what I mean by that is I tend to want things to go a certain way. Things have order in my life. Everything has a place and everything in its place. Which I'll have some contradictions in my life, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But anyway, but I'm starting to realize everybody makes mistakes. People fall. It happens. It's not the end of the world. And in fact, I think I've learned more from my failures than I have from my successes. And when I've fallen, it's really caused me to cling to God more. But I share my ironing story with y'all because I wanted to talk a little bit about being a perfectionist and being part of this Radical 7 and what I hope to accomplish on this journey. Perfectionists are people who tend to come from families that are very structured and families that are very, achievement focused. You know, you do something right, get the gold star. You know, you do something wrong, shame on you. You know, there's not a lot of place in there for error. And I kind of grew up like that. Not a lot of place for error. And so my whole life I've kind of been very, very hard on myself and very, very hard on other people, which I've talked a little bit about before, which this is not what this video is about. This video is just about what I'm working on in Radical 7 and how I'm utilizing my falls to make me a better person. I want to be very open and honest about my relationship with my son's father. No names will be mentioned and no specific details will be given, but I would like to go into a little bit of history about myself and why I am where I am today, and different things that I'm working on to reach my 7 goals. And I do have 7, and I can't remember what the 7th one was, but I have it. So once I remember what it is, I'll share it. But anyway, from K through 5th grade, I was pretty much an A and AB honor roll student. And, you know, I was always the one up there for the award ceremonies. I was the one that the teacher picked to do everything in class. I was the one when the teacher left the room, Renee, you're in charge. So, and I was also like the biggest girl in my class. Like, it's hard for people to imagine that now, but I was tall. I was always in the back row, and I was a little bit more meaty back then. And so when we went out for recess, I was always the girl. I was the protector of my little skinny pretty friends. I was the one that was playing sports. I was the one that was beating the boys at everything. That was me. Everything was a competition. And I didn't want to be one of those frou-frou girls. I was like, what is the point of that? They're sitting around looking cute while the boys are running around having fun. I'd much rather be running around and beating the boys than sitting around, you know, doing hopscotch or something that I thought was lame at the time. And then you transition from elementary school to middle school. In middle school, I got this terrible haircut. I had huge glasses and braces. Not exactly the sexiest girl in the grade school area. And so I realized I was probably not going to get the guy with my looks. So I worked a lot on my personality, and I was still very athletic. So I was the guy's girl. You know, like if you want to play basketball, you want to play football, soccer, you get Renee. She's tough. I've always been tough. So as I'm transitioning from middle school into high school, you know, there's all that awkwardness that comes along with it, and you know, the glasses got smaller and eventually got contacts and the braces came off, but I still kind of felt like the braces glasses girl. And so my self-esteem was a little iffy. I knew I was smart. I had total confidence in that, but beautiful, a little iffy. And that caused me to get into situations where I basically made myself a flirt, because I felt powerful when I could get a guy to turn his attention to me. So I worked really, really hard on my flirtatious skills, if you will. And so all through high school, that's what I did. I was just a big flirt. I just, I saw a guy. I was a go-getter type girl. Now, mind you, I wasn't having sex in high school. So I was a good girl. I guess you would say it's a tease, essentially. But anyway, let's get off that and then kind of transition into college and kind of where I am now, and how this Radical 7 journey is helping me become a better person. So I was a virgin all the way through high school and most of college. I did not lose my virginity until March 2008. And I had my son I found out I was pregnant in October 2009. So not very experienced in that area. And I've now been celibate for almost a year. So I say all this to say, when you're not right where you need to be with God, you reach out in pretty destructive ways, whether it's emotionally attaching yourself to someone that you shouldn't, or physically attaching yourself to someone that you shouldn't, because I do believe premarital sex is a sin. And yes, I have a son, and yes, I was indulging in that, but I don't condone it by any means. Number one, because I think it's destructive. When you have sex outside of marriage, and not saying that all marriages work out, but when you have sex outside of marriage and then you have a child in that situation, I birthed my son into a broken home, which is something that I never thought I would do. The father is not there. He's in my son's life, but he's not in our home. I grew up with my father in my home, and that was always my vision. I never saw me doing this by myself. But when you have different things that happen in your life and you're looking for identity outside of Christ, anything and everything pretty much goes. So one of the things that I just wanted to share about ironing with clothes on is picking people to affirm who you are, make you feel beautiful, that's outside of God. Not saying that your friends can't make you feel good, but if you are constantly looking for somebody to approve you, you're looking for that gold star every time you do something right, you're looking for God to just shower down blessings every time you run away from temptation, that might not always happen, and you'll find yourself making dangerous decisions. And that's kind of how I got into the situation with my son's father. I was going through a lot at home. I talked a little bit about the divorce in my last blog, and I felt rejected, essentially. I felt rejected from my family. I was reaching out to one family member a lot, trying to, reconnect. Let's go to lunch, let's go to dinner, I miss you. And I kept getting rejected. And it's one thing to be rejected by people outside of your family, but when you're rejected by family members who are supposed to love you unconditionally, that's hurtful. So instead of me journaling and instead of me going to that person and really trying to pour my heart and say what this is doing to me, I just completely rebelled. Well, fine, you don't want to be a part of my life? Cool. I'll do whatever I want to do then. And I ended up meeting somebody that was not on the same spiritual path as myself, and my son was conceived. The one thing that I want to say is that I've learned a lot about forgiveness and letting God just be the one to fight your battles. Because there's been a lot of battles that I've had, and I think this happens with any parent. Even if you're married, you have different views on how things should go. And especially when you're not married and, one person is doing one thing, another one's doing another, it can cause complete chaos in your life. And my life has been pretty chaotic for the past 9 months. Not the whole entire time, but for a good majority of it. But I share all this to say, now that I'm out of looking outside of God for my affirmation, for Him to tell me that I'm beautiful, for Him to tell me that no matter what I do, I am never far away from His love, has totally changed my way of living. Because I lived, if you do this, then God loves you. If you don't do this, yeah, He still loves you, but punishment and doom is coming your way. So I just wanted to share, people do dumb things. I reached out to the wrong person and I did things that I shouldn't have done, but it's brought me closer to God because it made me realize how broken I was. I don't think if I never would have had this situation, I don't think I would have reached out to God as much as I have. and Radical 7 is about being vulnerable. So I'm hoping that there might be some young lady, some woman, some girl out there that's dealing with some of the same issues as a woman, especially as a black woman. We've always been taught to be strong, and you don't need a man, and this, and that. A lot of us have. Not saying all of us. Don't want to have any more comments that below this video, but I think that also leads us to push people away that would love us and would do us right. And then the one person that doesn't do that, then we push back harder. And it just becomes a cycle where you start to mistrust people and you start to look at people crazy. And so allow yourself to make mistakes. It happens. Every woman has fallen for somebody that she shouldn't have. Every woman has gotten in a relationship that she shouldn't have. I was reading in Isaiah, and I can't remember exactly where, and I wish I would have wrote the scripture down, but it's basically talking about how God is going to punish the Israelites for being disobedient. And he talks about wars and poverty and famine. And then he also, I thought this was very interesting, he points out that there will be one man to every 7 women, and the women will go to the man and they will say to that man, we will provide our own food, we will provide our own clothes, just give us your name and save us from this disgrace. I found that very interesting, that they were like, dude, you don't have to do anything, I just want your name. And I was that girl. I was that girl about 3 years ago. Save me from my disgrace of singleness. Give me your name. Tell me you love me. Be my boyfriend, whatever. That was me. Which is not God's plan. Because number one, I knew the people the person that I was talking to wasn't just talking to me. But I lied to myself. When he was with me, he was with me. And when he was with whoever, they didn't really matter. Which is a complete and utter lie. None of us probably mattered to him, to be honest with you. But you just want that taste of, I guess, love so much that you just sacrifice what real love really is. Like, the whole time God is chasing after me, and the whole time God is sending me signs that he's still here, but I'm just pushing that out the way. No, that's not what I want, God. If you really love me, you send that love in the form of a person. And I think that was hurtful to God. Here I am, I'm chasing after all these things that have no real value to me. These are people, these are things that at the end of the day will all leave you or won't bring any real satisfaction. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about mistakes and what I'm doing to change